My name is Clara Hayes, and at 30, I thought I understood the landscape of my own heart. I believed I had charted its territories of disappointment, mapped its archipelagos of quiet grief. Being overlooked at family gatherings was a familiar ache, a dull pressure I had learned to carry. But I never imagined the ground could collapse so completely, until the day I opened a crisp, linen-textured envelope and found a bill for $58,500. It was an invoice for my sister Chloe's new Audi, and it was addressed to me. In that moment, something deep within me, a support beam I hadn't known was there, finally gave way. A decade of being the family's emotional and financial shock absorber culminated in the stark, printed numbers on that page. They had finally pushed too far. And so, I made a call, not to them, but for myself, a call that would recalibrate my entire world. If you are reading this from the warmth of a family gathering, cherish those genuine connections. Hold them close while I tell you how I finally learned to build my own foundation and discovered what true belonging feels like. I grew up in Linden Bluff, a manicured suburb on the North Shore of Chicago, in a sprawling Tudor-style home with ivy-covered walls and a circular driveway that always seemed to be hosting a luxury vehicle. From the outside, the Hayes family was a portrait of quiet success. My father, Robert, was a partner at a downtown law firm, his success measured in billable hours and club memberships. My mother, Caroline, was a pillar of the local community, her time occupied with charity luncheons and maintaining the impeccable facade of our life. On paper, we had everything. In reality, our home was an emotional contract where affection was transactional and acceptance came with a price tag. The emotional ledger was established the day my sister, Chloe, was born. I was 5. She was a whirlwind of charm and sunlight, captivating in a way my quiet, observant nature could never be. While I was the responsible one, the planner, Chloe was the spontaneous, glittering centerpiece. My parents cherished these qualities in her, seeing them as evidence of a life lived passionately. In me, the same traits were relabeled. My responsibility was rigidity, my planning a lack of adventurous spirit. When Chloe threw a tantrum, she was expressing her deep feelings. When I voiced a need, I was being difficult. This pattern became the blueprint of our childhood. For her 16th birthday, Chloe received a new convertible, a celebratory bow tied around the steering wheel. For mine, I was given a contribution to my college savings account and a lecture on the importance of long-term financial planning. Despite it all, I strived. I graduated valedictorian, earned a scholarship to Northwestern, and pursued a demanding degree in urban planning. While Chloe cycled through 3 different art schools, leaving each one after a semester of creative differences, I was securing internships and building a portfolio. By 25, I was a project manager at a prestigious urban design firm in Chicago. By 28, I had my own condo in Lincoln Park with a view of the lake, a robust retirement plan, and a life I had built, brick by brick, on my own. This independence, however, came at a cost. Every holiday, every family dinner became a tribunal where my choices were subtly cross-examined. I was too focused on my career, my mother would sigh. I was materialistic, my father would comment, seemingly oblivious to the irony as he checked the time on his Patek Philippe. They simultaneously criticized my ambition and benefited from its fruits. The exploitation started subtly. "Clara, darling, could you help Chloe with her security deposit this month? She found the most wonderful loft, but the startup costs are just beyond her. Clara, your father and I are a little short for the country club dues after the Naples condo assessment. Could you cover it until his year-end bonus comes through?" Each request was wrapped in the language of family unity, a test of my loyalty. And each time I complied, the stakes grew higher. 2 years ago, I paid off Chloe's $15,000 credit card debt, accrued during a transformative wellness retreat in Sedona. She had wept, promising me she was turning over a new leaf. 6 months later, she had maxed it out again on vintage furniture and a weekend trip to Miami. When I expressed my frustration, my mother explained that Chloe just had an artist's soul and wasn't burdened by material concerns, reminding me how fortunate I was to be so grounded. Last year, I loaned my parents a significant sum for a minor kitchen renovation that turned out to be a full-gut remodel with imported Italian marble. When I gently inquired about repayment, my father reminded me of the sacrifices they had made for my education, conveniently omitting the scholarships I'd earned and the student loans I had diligently paid off myself. Despite this history, a part of me still yearned for their unconditional approval. This past October, I made another bid for connection. I curated a perfect, architectural Chicago weekend for them, my treat. I booked a suite at a boutique hotel on the river, secured tickets for a private architectural boat tour, and made reservations at a Michelin-starred restaurant Chloe had mentioned. The weekend was superficially pleasant. My mother spent most of it offering unsolicited advice on my condo's decor, while Chloe dominated every conversation with dramatic tales of her latest romantic entanglement. After that weekend, the dynamic with Chloe soured further. She began calling me at work, her voice a theatrical whisper, detailing fabricated financial emergencies. Meanwhile, my parents' comparisons grew more pointed, framing Chloe's lack of financial discipline as a charming, bohemian trait, while my stability was painted as a kind of emotional deficiency. As November gave way to December, I found myself in the familiar push and pull of dread and hope for the holidays. I had already purchased thoughtful, carefully chosen gifts for everyone, mentally preparing for the annual performance of seeking acceptance while trying to maintain my own sanity. I had no idea that this year, the performance would be cancelled without my knowledge. The discovery came on December 16th, a blustery Tuesday that would change the trajectory of my life. I was scrolling through my phone during a late lunch when a photo stopped my breath. It was posted by my cousin Brendan. There was my entire family, parents, sister, aunts, uncles, cousins, gathered in my parents' living room, which was lavishly decorated for Christmas. Early Hayes Family Christmas, the caption read. So wonderful to have the whole clan together. The whole clan. Except for me. I zoomed in, a cold dread seeping into my bones. There was my father, carving a ham. My mother, laughing as she arranged gifts under the tree. Chloe, draped over a cousin's shoulder, a champagne flute in her hand. The photo was dated the previous Saturday. A party had happened. A big one. And I hadn't even known. With trembling hands, I called my mother. She answered on the third ring, her voice a confection of forced cheer. Clara. Darling, how are you? Mom, I saw Brendan's photo. Why wasn't I invited to the family Christmas party? I tried to keep my voice even, a fragile dam against a flood of hurt. A beat of silence. Oh, that. Sweetheart, it was all so last minute. A very casual get-together. We know how swamped you always are with work, and Chloe mentioned you had a big project deadline. I had no such deadline. When I told her this, she sighed, a sound heavy with practiced martyrdom. Clara, please don't make this a thing. It was just a simple gathering. You know how Chloe gets. She feels so much pressure when you're around, with your career and everything. She's been going through a rough patch, and we just wanted a low-stress evening for her. You understand, don't you? You've always been our strong one. Being the strong one was their code for being the one whose feelings could be safely disregarded. Before I could formulate a response, she added that they were, of course, expecting me on Christmas Day for the real family celebration. The invitation felt like a sloppy patch on a gaping hole. Later that night, a text from Chloe arrived. So bummed you missed the party. Was epic. Mom said you were slammed. Anyway, can you help me W/Mom's gift? I'm thinking a designer scarf, but need you are. Input LOL. No acknowledgement, no apology. Just a seamless pivot back to my designated role as the family ATM. That night, sleep eluded me. I lay in the dark, the city lights painting shifting patterns on my ceiling, and replayed a lifetime of similar cuts. The family trip to Hawaii I learned about from a postcard. My college graduation dinner, where they arrived 2 hours late because Chloe had a migraine. The celebration for my promotion, cut short by Chloe's tearful call about a fight with her boyfriend. By morning, a quiet resolve had settled in my chest. I texted my mother, I won't be able to make it on Christmas Day after all. I've made other plans. Her reply was instantaneous. What plans could possibly be more important than family? Family. The word felt like a foreign currency, its value completely debased. I didn't reply. Instead, I called my friend Maya. For years, she had extended a standing invitation to join her family's chaotic, joyful holiday celebrations. Unlike my own, Maya's family had always enveloped me in a casual, genuine warmth. Her parents asked about my work because they were actually interested. They remembered the name of my cat and the details of my last big project, keeping no score, expecting nothing in return. "Of course, you can come." "Are you kidding?" Maya said, her voice full of warmth. "My mom literally sets a place for you every year just in case. Your family, Clara." The stark contrast between Maya's immediate, unconditional welcome and my own family's calculated exclusion brought tears to my eyes. In the days that followed, I immersed myself in creating new traditions. I helped Maya and her family decorate their slightly crooked tree. I learned to make her abuela's famous tamales. I wrapped gifts for people whose presence was a gift in itself. For the first time in as long as I could remember, I felt the uncomplicated joy the season was meant to inspire. Meanwhile, my phone pulsed with a symphony of manipulation. My father called to inform me I was breaking my mother's heart. Chloe sent a barrage of texts that swung wildly between guilt-tripping and demands for gift ideas. Relatives I hadn't spoken to in months suddenly had deeply held opinions about my selfishness. The only message that didn't feel laced with poison came from my Aunt Helen, my father's sister, a pragmatic woman who had always kept a healthy distance from the family's central drama. "I heard you're not coming for Christmas," she said when I answered. "Good for you." Then she paused. "I wanted you to know that casual get-together was planned back in October. I saw the group email chain when I was at your parents' house for your dad's birthday." The confirmation of their deliberate deception was a sharp sting, but it was also clarifying. Then, Helen added a piece of information that made the timing of my exclusion suddenly click into place. "You know Chloe wrecked her car last month, right? Ran it into a light pole after a night out with friends. Your parents have been in a panic trying to figure out how to get her a new one without touching their Florida condo renovation fund." I thanked her for her honesty and tried to file the information away. I was determined to have a peaceful Christmas with people who actually wanted me there. Christmas Day with Maya's family was a revelation. We ate, we played noisy board games, we shared stories. No one commented on my career, no one assessed the value of my gifts, no one made passive-aggressive remarks. When Maya's father raised a glass and toasted to family, both the one you're born with and the one you find, I felt a profound sense of belonging that had nothing to do with shared DNA. I returned to my condo that night full of leftovers and peace, an invitation to their New Year's party in my pocket. For the first time, I felt no compulsion to check my phone for messages from the Hayes family. I was beginning to understand that family should be a harbor, not a storm. Little did I know, the final squall was still on the horizon. January arrived, draping Chicago in its signature post-holiday blanket of gray slush and collective melancholy. I plunged back into my work at Terraforma Designs, finding a strange comfort in the logic of blueprints and zoning regulations, which, unlike family dynamics, followed a predictable set of rules. 3 weeks after Christmas, the raw hurt of the exclusion had subsided to a tender bruise. I was focused on the year ahead, setting firmer boundaries, nurturing my real friendships, and finally starting the certification course for sustainable architecture I'd been putting off. Then, the envelope arrived. It was a Thursday evening. I collected my mail from the lobby, and there it was, nestled between a utility bill and a furniture catalog, a thick, cream-colored envelope with my parents' Linden Bluff address embossed on the back. No note, just my name and address written in my mother's impeccable, looping script. Curious, I tore it open in the elevator. A sheaf of papers slid out. The top page was an official-looking invoice from a luxury car dealership. Amount due, $58,500. Purchaser, Chloe Hayes. Cosigner, Clara Hayes. I nearly dropped the papers. My breath caught in my throat. Below the invoice was a loan agreement for a brand new Audi Q5, with monthly payments of over $1,000 for the next 5 years. And there, on the cosigner line, was my signature. A flawless, undeniable forgery. My hands shook so badly I could barely fit the key in my lock. I stumbled into my apartment and sank onto my sofa, the papers scattered on the cushion beside me. Tucked within the loan documents was a handwritten note on my mother's personalized stationery. Dearest Clara, a little surprise. We know you'd want to help Chloe get back on her feet after her little accident. The old car was a total loss, and she needs something safe and reliable for her new job search. We went ahead and took care of the details. The first payment is due February 1st. So proud of all you've accomplished to be able to do this for your sister. Love, Mom. The casual, breathtaking entitlement of the note made me physically ill. I grabbed my phone, my heart hammering against my ribs, and dialed my parents. My father answered. Clara, I trust you received the paperwork. Dad, what is this? I never co-signed for a car for Chloe. That's not my signature. Now, Clara, he began, his voice dripping with the patronizing calm he used to shut down any dissent. Let's not be dramatic. We knew you'd want to help. Your sister was traumatized by that accident. The accident that was her fault, I countered, Aunt Helen's words echoing in my ears. That's neither here nor there. The point is, she needs a reliable vehicle for her new job. What new job? As far as I knew, Chloe's primary occupation was brunch. She has a very promising interview next week, he said, a slight hesitation in his voice. She needs to make the right impression. The Audi will help with that. The sheer absurdity of the logic was staggering. Dad, someone forged my signature on a loan document. That is a felony. Your mother signed for you, he said, as if that made it perfectly legal. We knew you'd be difficult, but we had to move quickly. Family helps family, Clara. You're in a position to do this. It's the right thing to do. I was stunned into silence. The casual admission of a crime, the blithe assumption that my income was a family resource to be allocated as they saw fit, the utter disregard for my consent, it was a masterclass in their particular brand of dysfunction. This is illegal, I finally managed to say. I am not paying for this. Don't be so selfish, Clara. After everything we've done for you. He hung up. Within seconds, my phone lit up with texts from Chloe. Dad said you are freaking out about the car. I need this car, Clara. You have no idea how stressful my life is, RN. Why are you so selfish? You don't even like cars. If you don't do this, I'll be ruined. I turned off my phone and poured a glass of wine, my hands still trembling. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in years. I spent the day in a fugue state of research. A quick search confirmed my fears. As a cosigner, fraudulent or not, I could be held liable for the entire loan unless I officially reported the identity theft. With a growing sense of dread, I logged into my online banking portal to make sure no other damage had been done. What I found sent a fresh wave of ice through my veins. The day before, there had been an attempt to initiate a large wire transfer from my primary savings account, the account holding my emergency fund and the down payment I'd been meticulously saving for a future home. The bank's security system had flagged the transaction as unusual and frozen the account pending my confirmation. When I called them, the security specialist confirmed the login attempt had come from a device registered to my parents' home network, my old laptop, which I'd given them when I upgraded last year. The violation was profound. It wasn't just entitlement anymore. This was calculated theft. That afternoon, an email from my mother arrived. The subject line was simply, family. Clara, your father is deeply disappointed in your reaction. Chloe is heartbroken that you would abandon her this way. I must say, I am shocked. I raised you to understand that family stands together. The car is a done deal. Chloe loves it. Don't ruin this for her. She's so excited to post a thank you to you on her Instagram this weekend. Please don't embarrass the family by making a scene. The email was a perfect distillation of our family ethos. My feelings were an inconvenience, Chloe's desires were paramount, and my only function was to facilitate and fund their lives, all while maintaining a flawless public image. By the end of the day, my initial shock had cooled and hardened into something new, resolve. For the first time, I saw their behavior not as a series of flawed actions, but as a clear, consistent pattern of exploitation. This wasn't love. This wasn't even family. And it was going to stop. I made an appointment with a lawyer for the following Monday. Then I called Aunt Helen again. I'm not surprised, she sighed after I laid out the whole sordid tale. They did something similar to your cousin Brendan a few years ago with a timeshare presentation he won. He ended up just paying it to avoid the fight. They're counting on you to do the same. Not this time, I said, the firmness in my own voice surprising me. Not anymore. The lawyer's office was in a historic building in the Loop, its quiet, book-lined walls a stark contrast to the chaos of my life. Miss Davies, the attorney Maya had recommended, was a sharp, empathetic woman in her 50s. She reviewed the documents I'd brought, her expression growing more serious with each page. This is textbook identity theft and loan fraud, she said, finally setting down her glasses. The fact that it was your mother who forged your signature doesn't change the criminal nature of the act. What are my options? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. You have a few, she replied, her tone direct but kind. None of them are easy. You can file a police report, which would likely lead to a felony investigation against your mother. You can report the fraud to the lender and the credit bureaus, which will absolve you of the debt but may trigger the lender to press charges themselves. Or, you can do what they expect and pay for a $60,000 car you never wanted. Laid out so starkly, the choice seemed clear. Yet, a lifetime of conditioning warred with my newfound resolve. If I report the fraud, what happens to the car? It will be repossessed unless your sister or parents can qualify for the loan on their own. Given what you've told me about their financial situation, that seems unlikely. She paused, her gaze meeting mine. Clara, I can't advise you on the family part of this. But I want you to ask yourself, what kind of relationship do you actually have with people who would do this to you? Her question echoed in my mind as I left her office. When I finally turned my phone back on, it was a war zone. My father had left a voicemail, his voice tight with fury. If you proceed with this legal nonsense, you can consider yourself written out of this family. Your mother is sick with worry over your ingratitude. Chloe had sent a stream of consciousness text that veered from rage to pleading. I posted the car on Insta already. Everyone loves it. How could you take this away from me? Remember that time I covered for you in high school when you snuck out? You OW me. I had never snuck out in high school. Even my uncle, my father's law partner, had been enlisted. He called to give me a lecture on keeping family matters private and suggested I was being overly dramatic about a simple misunderstanding. The coordinated attack only solidified my decision. I forwarded everything to Ms. Davies and followed her advice to document every communication. That evening, my boss, Mr. Alastair, called me into his office. Clara, is everything all right? You seem distant. Your focus on the Grayson project has been off. I hesitated, then decided on the truth. I'm dealing with a personal family matter. My parents committed loan fraud to buy my sister a car in my name. I'm working with an attorney. He leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. I see, he said after a long moment. That is significant. Take whatever time you need. As I turned to leave, he added, and Clara? Don't let anyone bully you. Not even family. I learned that lesson a long time ago. The unexpected solidarity from my reserved, formidable boss was more strengthening than any family platitude had ever been. 2 days later, I discovered they had tried to apply for a high-limit credit card from a luxury department store in my name. The application was denied because of the fraud alert I had already placed, but the attempt was chilling. I immediately moved my money to a new bank, changed every password I had, and updated all my security questions to things my family could never guess. Then my mother called. Clara Elizabeth Hayes, she began, using the 3-name salvo reserved for her most serious guilt trips. We are going to discuss this like a civilized family. Your father and I are expecting you for dinner tomorrow night. 7 o'clock. Chloe will be there. We will sort this out. It wasn't an invitation, it was a summons. In the past, I would have gone, desperate for a chance to plead my case. This time, I agreed for a different reason. I needed to deliver my verdict in person. The next evening, I drove to Linden Bluff. The Tudor house stood under the cold winter moon, looking as imposing and impenetrable as ever. Through the large picture window, I could see Chloe's new Audi, parked ostentatiously at the front of the driveway. My mother greeted me at the door with a kiss that hovered an inch from my cheek. "Good," she said. "You've come to your senses." She led me to the dining room. My father stood by the mantel, a glass of whiskey in his hand, his face a mask of paternal disappointment. Chloe was slouched in her chair, scrolling on her phone, not even looking up. "Sit down, Clara," my father commanded. "Your mother has made your favorite, coq au vin. Let's resolve this ridiculous situation." My favorite was actually lasagna, a fact they had forgotten or never registered. "Before we begin," my father said as my mother served the food, "I want to say how profoundly disappointed we are in your behavior. Involving lawyers, making threats. This is not how the Hayes family handles things." "How does the Hayes family handle things, Dad?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. "By forging signatures? By trying to drain my savings account? By excluding me from family holidays and then sending me the bill for my replacement?" Chloe's head snapped up. "Oh my God, are you still on about that Christmas party? Get over it." "It wasn't a big deal. It was the entire family, Chloe. Everyone but me." "That's because you make everyone uncomfortable," she shot back, her voice rising. "With your perfect job and your perfect condo and judging all of us for just trying to live our lives." "Clara, you know your sister is sensitive," my mother interjected, placing a placating hand on Chloe's arm. "You've always been envious of her free spirit. It's not an attractive quality. The familiar script, the well-worn roles. Chloe the victim, Clara the villain." I looked at their faces, and for the first time, I felt nothing but a vast, cold distance. "I'm not paying for the car," I stated, placing my napkin on the table. "What you did was a crime. I have frozen all my accounts, and I have documented everything." My father's face hardened. "After everything we have provided for you, what have you provided for me that I haven't paid back tenfold?" I cut him off, the words tumbling out. "I earned my own scholarships. I paid my own loans. I built my own career. All you've done is treat my success like it's a trust fund for you and Chloe to draw from. We gave you a life," my mother cried. "You gave me a childhood," I corrected her. "And you've been invoicing me for it ever since." Chloe, ever the drama queen, shoved her chair back so hard it nearly toppled. "You think you're so much better than us. Well, newsflash, Clara, no one even likes you. That's why Daniel broke up with you. Because you're a cold, boring workaholic." Daniel, my ex-boyfriend, had broken up with me after I discovered he was sleeping with Chloe. A detail I had kept to myself, a final, misguided attempt to protect their pristine family image. The casual cruelty of her words was the final illumination I needed. They didn't just use me, they actively disliked me. "If you do not drop this," my father said, his voice low and dangerous, "if you do not call your lawyer and call off this absurd fraud claim, you are no longer a part of this family. No inheritance. No holidays. Nothing. You will be cut off, completely." The threat that would have once shattered me now felt like a key turning in a lock. "Let me see if I understand," I said, rising from my chair. "My choice is between paying $60,000 for a car I didn't buy or being disowned by a family that commits fraud against me, tries to steal my savings, and holds me in contempt. Is that about right?" I looked from my father's stony face to my mother's tear-streaked one, to Chloe's smug sneer. "You know," I said, walking towards the door. "That's not a difficult choice at all." As I opened the door, my mother's voice called after me, laced with panic. "But Chloe needs that car. What is she supposed to do?" I turned back one last time. "She can do what I did when I needed a car," I said. "She can buy one she can actually afford." The drive back to Chicago was a blur of streetlights and rising emotion. I had just detonated my own life. The relief was intoxicating, but beneath it was a deep, aching grief, not for the family I had lost, but for the one I had never truly had. In the weeks that followed, a strange peace settled over me. Instead of the crushing guilt I'd braced for, I felt a lightness. The decision was made. The burden was gone. My therapist, Dr. Sharma, helped me navigate the complex aftermath. "You didn't sever the relationship, Clara," she told me during one session. "You simply stopped participating in an unhealthy dynamic. You held up a mirror and they didn't like the reflection. My family, however, did not go quietly. Chloe launched a passive-aggressive social media campaign, posting moody selfies with captions about toxic family members and the pain of being misunderstood by those closest to you. My parents began a whispering campaign, calling mutual friends and distant relatives to express their deep concern for my mental state and my erratic, ungrateful behavior. My father even called Mr. Alistair again, suggesting I might need a leave of absence to deal with my personal issues. To his credit, Mr. Alistair shut him down, telling me later, "Your family's behavior is reinforcing my high opinion of your resilience." The final, clarifying moment came in the form of a late-night text from Chloe, sent from a friend's phone to bypass my block. It was a rambling, typo-riddled tirade. "You think you won, but you are all alone now. Mom and Dad only ever put up with you BC of your money. We all laugh at you. Have fun in your empty condo with your stupid cat." The raw, drunken honesty of it should have hurt. Instead, it was a gift. It was the truth, ugly and unvarnished. They didn't love me. They tolerated me. And with that confirmation, I was finally, truly free. The next morning, with a calm heart, I called the bank's fraud department and made my official report. Then I called Ms. Davies. I wasn't interested in pressing criminal charges. I didn't want my mother to be a martyr. I wanted a clean break. We negotiated a settlement. My parents, faced with the bank's own legal threats, agreed to everything. They would pay my legal fees, sign a legally binding document admitting to the fraud, and agree to a permanent no-contact order. In exchange, I would not cooperate with a criminal prosecution. The car was repossessed from the parking lot of the mall where Chloe worked part-time. The social media fallout was predictable and vicious, but I had already deactivated my accounts. It was just noise from a world I no longer inhabited. 6 months have passed. Summer has settled over Chicago, and a quiet, steady joy has settled in my life. The promotion I was up for came through. I'm leading a major redevelopment project in the West Loop. I used my bonus to book a trip to Spain to study Moorish architecture, something I'd always dreamed of doing. My life is not empty. It's full of friendships that are reciprocal and nourishing. It's full of work that I love, hobbies that challenge me, and the quiet satisfaction of a home that is truly my own sanctuary. I reconnected with Aunt Helen and my cousin Brendan, forming new, healthier bonds on the fringes of the family I'd left behind. We meet for dinner sometimes, sharing stories and creating a small, authentic tribe of our own. Last week, I received an email from an unknown address. It was from Chloe. "I'm not sorry, but I get it now," it read. "Mom and Dad are trying to make me pay for their new patio furniture. Dad suggested I take a loan from my 401k. I told them to buy something they could afford. Don't write back. I'll deny I sent this." I didn't reply. It wasn't an apology, but it was an echo of my own words. A small crack in the foundation of their world. Whether she would ever truly break free was her journey, not mine. As the holidays approach again, there is no dread, only anticipation. I'm spending Christmas with Maya's family in a rented cabin in Wisconsin. We're going to ski and play board games and drink hot chocolate. It will be loud and messy and real. The invoice for that Audi wasn't a bill, it was a map. It led me out of a place I had mistaken for home and into the wide, open landscape of my own life. I learned that family isn't about blood, it's about respect, support, and a love that doesn't keep a ledger. I learned that boundaries are not walls to keep others out, but fences to protect the sacred ground of your own well-being. And I learned that walking away from what is breaking you isn't an act of weakness, but the ultimate act of strength. If you are reading this and any part of my story echoes in your own heart, please know that you are worthy of relationships that build you up, not ones that require you to shrink. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it is an act of profound self-respect. Sometimes, the most difficult goodbyes lead to the most peaceful hellos. I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to choose yourself over a relationship that was hurting you? What did you learn from the experience? Thank you for walking with me on this part of my journey. And remember, true family helps you grow. They don't just expect you to pay.